today, we're actually gonna work with one of my favorite cuts. It's kind of an alternative cut known as the T-bone. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that I'm gonna pull out a steak here. And it is a chop, but it's actually not beef. It's actually coming from pork. So believe it or not, you're actually gonna get that same cut that you love with beef, where you've got that loin that's gonna be that big meaty flavor. And on the other side of that T-bone, we're gonna pick up that tenderloin right here. That's gonna be just really, really tender and great flavor. And so I really like to treat this very, very simply. I think that pork has a really great affinity when it comes to marinating. So I'm just gonna get a little bit of oil on this, just some extra virgin olive oil. And that affinity that I mentioned earlier comes from soy sauce. It's got a really rich flavor, a lot of umami. And so I'm gonna add that over the top. I'm gonna use a little bit of crushed red pepper. It's gonna give it a little bit of heat and spice, garlic powder, and then we'll go ahead and season this on both sides. I've got some crushed pepper here. I've also got some kosher salt. And the idea is that I'm gonna put this maybe together at least 30 minutes before I'm ready to rock and roll on my grill. I've got a charcoal grill set up here, a little bit of what I call a 2-zone fire. So we've got a little bit hotter zone here so I can get that perfect sear, and then maybe an indirect zone on the other side where I can maybe control my temperature a little bit more. So we'll let this marinate up to about 30 minutes, maybe up to 4 hours if we have the time. And then we're just gonna go ahead and put this right on, directly over the heat, right here on the grill. Now, while that's cooking, we're gonna be working maybe, I'd say about 6 to 7 minutes per side. One of the things that most people mess up when they're cooking pork is they overcook it. So I'm gonna take a meat thermometer, and once this kind of comes up to temperature, I'm looking for maybe 130 to 135 degrees internal temp, maybe about an inch away from the bone, right in the center. And then I'm gonna allow that to just simply rest while I'm building up this kind of caper salsa. So I'm a huge fan of kind of a post-marinade, a salsa, a relish, something along those lines. So what I've got here is just some red wine vinegar, and then I've already pre-diced some shallot and some garlic. Shallot gives us kind of that beautiful onion and garlic flavor. And oftentimes when I'm cooking at home, I love to kind of put this in the red wine vinegar, if I have time, maybe an hour in advance, because the red wine vinegar is gonna kind of pickle that garlic and shallot. It's gonna take out some of the onion and harsh flavor that we might get. I mentioned capers, or they're really the star of the show. So we've got these beautiful briny, salty capers. I'm gonna add in some scallion as well, which is gonna give it more of that onion flavor. We're just gonna use a little bit of parsley. You can use curly or Italian parsley. And then to kind of bring this together, remember we've already got our vinegar. We're gonna add in some extra virgin olive oil just to finish that out. And then I am always gonna make sure that I'm seasoning this with some fresh cracked pepper and a little bit of that kosher salt. And then we'll just blend this together. And this is something that you can have prepared prior to dinner, prior to your guests arriving. The longer it sits, it's gonna pick up that beautiful flavor and kind of marry together. So this is a beautiful salsa, super impressive to serve as well. I've already got this chop that I've cooked, perfect 135. We're gonna pull this off. And even if you're pulling it at 130, 135 degrees, remember, it's gonna carry over a lot of that residual heat. And to just serve this up, we're gonna take this beautiful salsa. When it's time to serve, you can do this individually or you can do it family style. And we are just gonna plate this right over the top. Super delicious. We've got those nice, perfect grill marks. And this is just gonna come together super simple. It's gonna add a little bit of punch, acidity, and everything in between. And if that's not it, just remember that you've got 125 more recipes. Thank you so much for hanging out on this episode. Pick up a copy of Butcher on the Block today. Cheers.
Hi friends, it is summer in the South and produce at the farmer's market could not be more beautiful or more delicious. So I thought that today I would share a Southern favorite when tomatoes and cucumbers are in season, and it is the tomato cucumber onion salad. This is a very common side at Southern barbecues, and the good thing about this recipe is that you make it a day ahead for all of the flavors to meld. So if you have a party or a picnic, this is the perfect thing to make and then just pull out of the fridge when you're on your way to the event. A few tips on how to choose ingredients. Red or purple onion is preferred for this recipe because it has a little kick that will stand up to the overnight marinade and still have a good bite. I got these cucumbers fresh from the farmer's market today, and they're regular cucumbers or Kirby cucumbers, But if they're not in season or you don't have access to fresh, you would probably want to choose an English cucumber because they'll be the best quality for this salad. And the star of this salad is the tomato. You want to get the freshest you can find. These are heirloom. Beef steak is a particularly good choice for this salad because it's a firmer texture that can stand up to the overnight marinade. So we have our onions, our cucumber, and our tomatoes. Everything is ready to go. So now we're gonna make our dressing. Okay, and for your dressing, you're going to want to use vinegar. I prefer red wine because it's got a little sweet aftertaste. You can use anything, but if it's not a sweet vinegar, you may have to add a little sweetener, but with red wine vinegar, you don't. Then you're going to want a good quality extra virgin olive oil, and you're using twice as much olive oil as you are the vinegar. That's the ratio that yields the best result. And then seasoning of choice. You probably always want to put some kosher salt and ground pepper. And I'm going to add just a little bit of salt-free Italian seasoning. And then we're just going to give it a shake. Okay, friends, I've got the cucumber, the tomato, and the onion in a bowl. And we're gonna just pour the dressing on top. And you want to have a container that is airtight because you want to turn this through the night where the marinade will coat all of the vegetables. So I like to use a glass container with an airtight lid that I can flip without worrying that this is gonna spill in the fridge. Guys, look how pretty this is. So I'm gonna give this a stir, and then we're gonna put the lid on like this. Here. Okay, and then I'm gonna turn it a few times to get all that dressing throughout the salad. Okay. Friends, it's ready to go in the fridge, and then in 24 hours, this will be a fabulous, delicious, very beautiful salad that you can put out on the picnic table. You can serve pita chips alongside it and use it as an appetizer. You can put it atop another salad with other ingredients, or like we do in the South, you can serve it just like this as a side for Southern barbecue and fried chicken. I hope that you all will try this recipe. If you do, please let me hear what you think. As always, it's such a pleasure to be with you, and until next time, you have a fabulous rest of your day.
Hi, you guys. We are gonna make a strawberry rhubarb pie together today. My pie crust is just shortening. If you have a favorite pie crust you want to use, go ahead and use that. So let's get started.
We're gonna start by chopping up our rhubarb into 1-inch pieces, and then we're gonna slice up our strawberries as well.
Then in a large bowl, we're gonna throw in our rhubarb, our strawberries, our sugar, our cornstarch and flour, and we're gonna mix that up really well, and then we're gonna set that aside so it macerates a little bit while we work on our pie crust.
Then in a large bowl with our flour, we're gonna add in our salt and our vegetable shortening. I love the sticks, they are so convenient. Then take a pastry cutter and work our shortening into our flour so it's like a coarse sand, and then go ahead and add in your ice water. You're gonna add in 5 tablespoons. You only see me add 3 here. You need 5. And then you're gonna take your hand and you're gonna gently move the water through your shortening and your flour mixture. And then what you're gonna see me do here, I'm gonna show you this whole process from start to finish. You're going to scrunch your dough at this point. And so what this is going to do is it's going to work our shortening into the flour but still yield a really, really flaky crust. You do not want to knead this. Just going to do maybe 6 or 7 scrunches. We're not going to overwork the dough. We just really want to incorporate that shortening into our flour. And then what we're going to do is we're going to form it into a ball. And I'm going to cut this ball in half, and we want one part of our dough to be a little bit bigger because we're going to make a lattice. Every time I'm going to flour my surface, I always draw a heart because it reminds me to pray over who is going to eat what I'm baking. You want to really flour your surface really well so our dough doesn't stick. Be very generous with that flour, and then you're going to roll upwards and then to the side. And that is going to help keep the round shape of our pie crust. And you can lift that up, and then you can go ahead and add a little bit more flour. We want to be really careful to make sure that this delicate crust does not stick to our surface. And then we're just going to keep rolling back and forth. And if any of those little pesky pieces of dough get on your rolling pin, go ahead and remove those so it doesn't leave indents in our pie crust. In order to put our pie crust on our pie plate easily, we're gonna roll it onto our rolling pin. And then we're just gonna roll it directly onto our pie pan. And it's so easy. It's the best way to make sure that you don't rip your pie crust. Then you will gently just bring in the edges and then go ahead and remove any long pieces that are hanging over. But make sure to save those pieces because we're going to use those to help build our crust at the end. Then for the lattice, we are going to cut about 1-inch strips, and then I went and cut 1/2-inch strips as well because I want the lattice to have some thicker pieces and some thinner pieces. Then add all your pie filling into your pie crust. Make sure to stir it up good before you add it in, and then add a lot of butter. Then we're gonna add on our strips, and they're all gonna face the same direction, and then you can add in the little thin ones in between. Just go ahead and fill the top, and then you're gonna fold down every other strip, just down to the middle of the pie. Then we'll lay one of the strips down horizontally and fold those strips right over top. And then you'll take the ones that were folded down and you'll fold those back, lay a strip down, fold them over, and it's starting to come together. And then we'll just repeat this until we have completed our pie lattice. And then grab those scraps that we saved and put those around the edges where the crust is. And then we're gonna crimp that together and then use your thumb and your 2 fingers to crimp the sides of your pie. Then I decided to have a little fun and cut out a flower and a strawberry with extra scraps. I painted the flower white with gel food coloring, and then I painted the strawberry red. And I went ahead and added a little green stem to the top of the strawberry. Then we'll just add sugar and bake it up.
This is so good, you guys. This, you can see the beautiful tart rhubarb. I love rhubarb. And then you're adding the strawberries, so you're adding a different layer of flavor and sweetness to your pie. This is so beautiful. I mean, the pink itself makes your heart swoon, right? Because it's a pink pie. You can even see right here how flaky this crust is, you guys. Oh my gosh, it's so good. All right, let's take a bite. Woo! You guys, you get the tart rhubarb punch, and then you get the sweet strawberries and that flaky crust. Forget about it.